Well, welcome guys to our very final jam session. Sarah and I have been doing these jam sessions for 3 years, and they're going to transform next year into something different, into collaborative circles. And we were looking back through all the wonderful jam sessions that we've done over the last 3 years, and they've been so much fun. We love sharing all of this with you. They're also going to be available to you and on the Client Circles site, so it will always be there. The content won't go away. It'll be accessible for all of you. But we're really excited to do this one today. And I think it's really pertinent, especially as we get close here to the end of the year. It's time to put on our creative thinking caps and start thinking about what we want to be doing in 2018 and really make space for the creativity to flow. I've been playing in a lot of creativity just recently with my rebranding and with the launch of my new website that I'm trying to build. It's just going to be, it's been a good reminder how important creativity is. So, and I know, Sarah, you've been doing the same sort of thing.
That's right. Are you sharing your screen, by the way? Because I can't see our slides.
Oh, you're right. I'm not sharing screens. So let me make sure I share the right screen.
Yes, I definitely am in that creativity space and thinking about my brands and some of the brands of the clients that I'm working in and some of the communications work that I do. And so, like, this is a time to be super creative, and we've got the holidays and all this new energy. So I can't wait to dive into today's content. And frankly, if you're a entrepreneur or not, everybody's thinking about fun things that they can do in their lives. And so this is a topic that is universal, right? It doesn't matter what your background is, what your job is. I mean, everybody needs creativity in their life. So I'm hoping that you're excited and that you can take a couple of golden nuggets that'll help put a little splash of something fun in your life.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun one to put together. I really enjoyed this one. It's good to just stop and think about how do we create boy, I can't even say that. How do we create creative spaces in our life, right? So, and I think this is really interesting. This is something that we often say to ourselves, right? I am creative, I'm not creative. I mean, how many of you do that, right? I know I've certainly done that in my life, and there's been places in my life. In fact, back in my corporate days, there was times where I really said that a lot. I said, "Oh, I rely on the creative team to do that. I'm not the creative mind. I am the left brain thinker." And I would really, put my focus that way. And I would claim it that way, which is so not true. In fact, when I did the Emergenetics test several years ago, as I was launching into my business, it was so funny that I got the results back on that, and I was like 83% right brain thinking, the creative side of my brain that I kind of just shut off for so long. So this is something we often label ourselves with, and it comes from, places somewhere before, as whether it started when we were childhood. It certainly started for me in the corporate days where I was just so wrapped up in the linear style of getting things done that I let go of some of the creativity, and I think that happens to us a lot. Has that happened to you, Sarah?
Oh, absolutely. And you start, you put an idea out there and then somebody's like, well, that sucks. And then you're like, oh yeah, you're right. It totally does. And so my ideas aren't that creative anyway. And so you start this like negative
Mm-hmm.
self-talk of, oh, the creatives look like this kind of people, and that's so not me. Right. I remember thinking, like, even when I was in junior high and high school, about like how you would describe yourself. And I remember physically saying out loud, oh, I am so not creative, as we were thinking about things for like decorating our horse stalls or something at the fair. I mean, I grabbed onto that mindset of not being creative really early. And it was shocking because now in my life, when people describe me, they're like, oh, she's got so many creative ideas. And so I never saw myself as creative until I started having other people reflect that back to me.
Yeah, and creativity takes all kinds of forms, right? It can take it from a strategic perspective where we're bringing strategic ideas to the table. It can be when we're playing in our art. It can be, there's just so much. It can be when we're playing in spirit. There's just so much that we can really tap into if we just open up to it and be curious. And so that's what we're going to really want to get into today. So
Yeah,
let's,
art creativity doesn't just apply to crafts, and I think
yeah.
that was That's my
Yeah.
dream. It's like,
So,
I can't make shake my hands. That doesn't work. Like, I don't know. So it's not crafts. That's not the kind of creativity we're talking about today.
right. And every single one of you, and so I want you just to stop and pause for all of you on the call today, is to think, I am a creative being, right? So just stop and take that in, own it. You are a human, you've got creative powers, magical powers, and today we're going to play in that and really launch it up.
That's right. Because you were born a human, and because of the fact that you were blessed with a human presence in this lifetime, you were born with two beautiful things. And so it's just this power of pause today to say, oh, that's right. I do have these two amazing things called free will, which means I can do whatever I want, when I want, how I want, because I am human and have those choices, the capacity to do that. Plus, I was given amazing, wild, creative imagination. And you couple those two things together, the fact that you can birth whatever new ideas you want with that creativity, that imagination, man, that's when epicness truly happens. And so I would challenge everybody today to just accept the fact and be open to the fact and just reconnect with the fact that, yeah, you're super blessed and your imagination is awesome and you just have to let it play. Yeah. So today is time to let it play and not label it or judge it and go into all those different labels that maybe you've given yourself or somebody else have given you, a teacher, a boss, a coworker, whatever, right? And to move into this see, do, get model. And so this next slide you may have seen before, especially if you've been a part of our jam sessions for any length of time, because we always come back to it, it seems, because it's the principle. Right, and what this basically says is how you see things or how you view the world is going to impact what you do or those behaviors that you exhibit. And then obviously your behaviors are going to influence the results that you ultimately get. And so let's play this out for a quick sec. Right, if you wore the label of I am not creative, right, you threw out the fact that you have this wild imagination, you silenced it, then you would probably show up in ways, like Cami said, like, oh, the creative team's going to deal with this, or I need to hire somebody in to help me with all of these cool ideas, or, that's just not me, right? And then the results you get, well, then you end up, doing other things, like paying other people perhaps for their wild ideas when yours could have been just cool, right? Now you flip that and say, no, I'm going to totally own this. I am creative paradigm, right? I'm going to see that. I'm going to breathe energy into it. I'm going to reconnect with it on the regular. I'm going to cultivate that energy around creativity. And then what does that do with your result or with your behaviors, right? You think and you'll start acting like a creative person, right? You'll start, sharing ideas. You'll start, not being afraid to float something out there that might be a little bit different. And then the results you get are obviously going to be so awesome. So think about this see, do, get model and say, gosh, how is my mindset actually influencing how I'm showing up as a creative person? Because we all have it, period. So see, do, get. What's your paradigm, baby?
So I want you guys to write down on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your level of creativity? So just take that, write it down. And then think of all the beliefs that you can dig into around creativity. What can you write about in your journal to get your mind trained on the fact that you are, in fact, creative? What are some things that you can be doing that empower these beliefs around your creativity? I'd love to hear from a few of you. Just raise your hand because I muted you all down. What numbers did you give yourself, and what might you do around these empowering beliefs?
And the three that you have on the screen there are, I think, really interesting because there's some people that have a belief around, oh, I'm going to use up all my creativity. Like I've got to save this really good idea, like for when I really need it, because there's like only so much in this creativity pot. It's like, wait a minute, no, there's an abundance of creativity. You're never going to use it up. It's just going to bring more. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, then woo, this stuff just flows.
Anyone what numbers did you guys give yourself? You can put it in the comments, or you can put it here. Rita's raising her hand. You're self-muted on your end. There you go. You're open now.
Yeah, I know. I gave myself a 6 or 7.
Okay.
And in terms of empowering beliefs, I think for me, it has been about just taking an action. So I think, even if I come up with an idea, like for instance, like what I'm sitting with right now is, I just realized this year I did one event of my own. And as I'm looking back at the year, and not to say that I didn't do other things, but I'm like, man, I have really like, I want to do many events next year, right? So I have this calendar that I'm trying to come up with, and it's moving it from thought to like just do something about it. Schedule your first event and then schedule your next, and it's like, um, and I know that sounds kind of mundane in terms of like, oh, you're just going to do events, but the creativity piece is behind like what's in each event.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited about going off and, like I have a lot of content, and now it's just kind of figuring out how do I present this in 2018 in a way that I didn't do in 2017. And that's really fun. But I think the empowering piece of that is go do something, like schedule the event and get it moving, So that's the empowering side for me.
I love it. I love it. And how has that shifted from, if you would have answered that question as far as your scale of creativity 3 years ago, where would you put yourself on the scale then?
Yeah, I would say it was much lower in the sense that, as you were in the beginning when you were describing, all these things we kind of tell ourselves. I think there's a big part of if you are in an environment that does not see the value in it or does not promote it or does not, it's kind of hard. You will suppress it. You will kind of just say, well, there's no room for this. I'll just keep that for outside of, so when I was working the job, that's kind of, I think I could do it within the scope of things I directly touched. But when it got to like wider scopes, it became less effective. And so I would just kind of like, well, I don't think it fits, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the more it's that muscle, the more we use it, the more we use our creative muscle, the more active it is, right?
Agreed. Yeah. I think there's room for it anywhere you are, as you said.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Nice. Thank you.
Kind of using it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How about you, Lena?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So I gave myself 3.5.
Okay.
I couldn't even commit to 4. But I would, the sentence here, creativity is like a muscle, really resonates with me.
Okay.
And I think there's more potential. I just never used it. And growing up, just what Sarah has said earlier, I would just tell myself, oh, I'm not creative. I don't know how to do this stuff. This is above me. I'll just let other people do it. But somewhere there is that muscle, I think, because I do come up with some ideas sometimes, and I feel like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and so it's a muscle, and I need to work on it definitely.
Well, the fun thing is we've got like 12 different ways you can work on that muscle that we're going to go through here in a minute. So it's, I think it's good to recognize where you are and then just start to be curious about, okay, how is it shifting? How is it changing when we start bringing more and more of it into our lives? So thank you.
Great.
Right. Because there are truly an infinite amount of ideas and ways that we can put that creativity on.
Yeah.
And I think it also, so we talked about this mindset of, okay, I am a creative person and I can do all this awesomeness. But it also comes with this belief that, okay, I know that not everybody's going to love my stuff, right? And, or like, I might think that this is a wild idea and it's awesome. And then I go and execute it like Rita was just saying, like I just move, I do it. But then it doesn't work. Like I've failed. And I think that that's a lot of the reason why people won't even like go to bat, right? Like I'm not even going to try because there's a potential for me to fail. There's a potential for people to give me feedback that I don't want to hear. And so we just have to say, yeah, that is truly a potential. Like that assessment, like somebody can come back and say you're an idiot or that was a wild idea that is dumb or whatever. Like, yeah, it could happen. But just to be like, that's cool though, because at least I'm in the arena getting my butt kicked. At least I'm out there sharing what's on my heart. And at the end of the day, we learn way more than, from our failures than we do from anything else. And so you look at it and say, okay, I'm going to believe that some of my ideas will not be winners, but that's okay. I'm going to keep showing up anyway. And so we have all this creativity wrapped up around that fear of failure. And we just know it's a part of life, and we commit to ourselves here today to be okay with looking silly, or to be okay with failing, or to, just make a different commitment to ourselves that I'm going to own my brand of, creativity and work hard to cultivate it every single day. And so what's that commitment that you're willing to make around failing, right?
And the other part of that is just to be okay with, it won't resonate with everyone, right? Right. I've been really deep into writing the copy for the homepage of my new website. And I'm like, oh my God, does this feel like kind of edgy? Is this too creative? Right. and it may not resonate with somebody, but then it's like, no, wait a minute. That's exactly when you're feeling that kind of push pull between, do I go that creative? Do I not go that creative? There's probably some magic in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's not making people feel a certain way or yourself feel a certain way, then you're probably not at that little magic point yet. So you keep pushing forward. So make that commitment to yourself that it's okay to fail, and just remember that, you're going to fall down 7 times and you're going to just keep getting up.
I love that this is actually the meaning of this word. I think this is so cool.
Right. Yeah. So flex those creativity muscles and ponder a few things as we go through.
Okay, so pondering. So what are some of the things that you might do? What might you can take a different route home. You can start the conversation versus waiting for someone to have the conversation with you. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they said, I haven't heard from that person in a really long time. And the opportunity was like, well, have you reached out? Read books from things that you wouldn't typically read. How do you just shake things up in your world so that it's not the same routine day after day? If you travel, how does it make you feel? I love this one. When is the last time you ate alone? I think it's a great thing to go out and just have space to be out alone, be there.
Noticing what you can notice. I just have to say, one of my Epic Shit Challenge team members posted last week that she finally went out alone, ate a meal, and felt comfortable. Like, just to do that, and the things that she noticed while she was being alone was stuff that she wouldn't have noticed when she was with somebody else. And just to own that and to feel it and to, say, like, this isn't a bad thing, and like, wow, this is, by shaking up and doing something different, my paradigm has been shifted.
Yeah. What colors do you love lately? So you guys have probably all seen my, I am like totally wearing my blue nails everywhere. It matches my new logo. It was so excited when I found the big gigantic Post-it notes that were the blue color that matched my, so it's like, it's things like that is play in it and be curious about it. The music that you're listening to, if you've got this calling to travel somewhere, maybe there's a reason that you're being called to travel someplace. So often I know I get the calling to be by the ocean when my creativity really wants to flow, and it's like, get to the ocean and I make that space and I can find it. In fact, so let's just take a look at this next one. It's Seek More Adventure, right? And this, Sarah, this is Sydney, right? Where you were at, on the one on the left, right? And so that was something you put down early this year. You were getting this calling to go there, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
you wrote it down.
The opportunity to go. I wrote it down, and I said I would actually get paid to go to Australia, not pay to go to Australia. And it freaking worked. I got to go there and do work. It was fantastic. But what I love about it is just like being able to go and see different culture and experience different food and different, scenery, and all of that just like sets that your mind on fire, right? Mm-hmm. And so taking you outside of what your norm and exposing you to a completely different environment. Like, you want more creativity than, what do you need a stamp on your passport? And, you know, some of you might be like, sure, Sarah, seriously, a stamp on my passport. Like, let's be realistic here. I have a budget. And so you don't have to like go travel across the globe. It's like, how can I maybe go to a place within my own city that I've never been? It was amazing to me how many people when I lived in Arizona but had never been to the Grand Canyon. And it was literally like 2 hours away. Like, what are those things that you need to adventure that you haven't, but that you've been getting that itch to go to?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the picture of me on here is just, that's my heart and soul. When I get there in Oregon on the coast with the big gigantic waves, it just, you know, they jazz my energy and my creativity flows just like it's amazing how good my creativity flows when I get there. I can go into the house from there and just write and journal and write. I mean, that's how a lot of my book got written was from the Oregon coast. So I'm a big believer on where your body is being called, follow that. Be curious what kind of energy, what kind of you know, is it the mountains calling to you? Is it the ocean? Is it the desert? It can, you know, all of those different places can have a different feel and a different impact on how we show up in our creativity. So just know yours. And
yep.
Yeah, so in this one is on the one on the left there is, I was last week at the Women's Entrepreneurial Day, 2017. They were expecting 200 people. They had 550 women show up. It was incredible energy. This is Amelia Earhart from, was it Channel 9, I think? And she's starting off the day, and the people that I met that day were so inspiring. It was just like every place I turned, there was some women just leading great, big, huge companies, starting their own things. And it was just so inspiring, the energy that was in that room. So that kind of thing gets my creativity going. It's like I have this idea of a product that's like, oh my God, I got to create this product. I'm calling my brother-in-law. I'm like, okay, we've got to create this app. And, you know, so there's just space that got created last Friday for me that has new ideas sparked. And it's so powerful. How about you, Sarah? So tell us a little about yours on this one here. This is a little bit out of the norm, right? This is.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about, you know, just this whole idea of socializing outside of your normal circles is that you get into your own thinking rut, right? And you approach the same conversations, it seems like, and new people don't get all your thought patterns, your old stories, and so it's refreshing to go and speak with people that are completely different. And so this is a picture of Instagram for Cowboy Cerrone, who happens to be one of my husband's friends, and he's involved in, you know, professional sports and UFC, and like it's men hit each other and make money, which is so outside of like what I stand for. And, you know, I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's just wacky. It's just crazy. But every time I am socializing outside my normal circle and go over into, you know, their world, I'm blown away. And I come back with such, again, just new ways of thinking, new ideas, new energy. And I think that energy and creativity are kind of like sisters. Right? Like when you've got high energy, then it allows you to have more creativity. And so just like this energetic pull of, oh my God, there's other people and they made me think differently. And oh my gosh, I got to share a different story and it resonated with them differently. And you're like, just create this little love fest almost that just spirals out, and then these wild ideas get born. So my challenge to you is to say, how can you look completely outside your normal circles, even if you ultimately are like, okay, I would never want to go watch dudes hit each other in the face. Like, could you still go and want to like hang out with people that are different than you, or like, you know, those, what is there to appreciate? Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, get outside your normal circles that where you normally hang out. It's good to have your tribe that's there, but also go look where there's other people. So jot down as we move through each one of these tips. So even from this one, it's like, you know, where are you seeking adventure right now? Just jot down a few ideas for yourself. Where are you being called for more adventure? Jot down your own ideas. Same thing on this one. Socializing outside of your normal circles. Where else might you go who might you go hang out with? Is there a conference that you really want to go to that takes you outside the scope of some place that you've already been? Or is there...
That's a great question. I love that one. I was talking to my friend Damien the other day, and he's like, I'm at a dentist conference. I'm like, what in the world are you at a dentist conference for? You're not a dentist. He's like, no, it's like they're talking about marketing and attraction of clients. He's like, it's great stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, dentist. All right. So yeah, where's that conference?
Yeah, absolutely. It stretches us. It helps us grow. Oops. Um, and personal stories. I mean, so of course I've picked a whole bunch of people off of this one, and just said, I've been getting to interview so many cool women and hearing so many cool stories, and, about women walking around the world, about, making big leaps, about, the woman on the bottom left-hand corner here is Eleanor Greenberg, and she is 85 years old, and she had some amazing stories to tell, right? And really relevant stories for today. So go ask people to tell their stories to you. Listen to their stories. There's so much inspiration and ideas that can come from just having these conversations with people. Anything you want to add on this one, Sarah?
Well, it's just fun too, right? And like I was at the antibiotics symposium a couple of weeks ago in DC, and I was talking with a beef producer from Wisconsin, and I thought he wanted to talk about, beef stuff. And he starts telling me this story about the way that he is serving in his small community, because there's these two small children that he's noticed like need to help get into the bus stop every day. And the father has schizophrenia, and there's all these mental issues, and all he wants to do is love on these two kids. And so he tells me this story about how he's supporting them and all of the challenge, and my little heart is just like, oh my gosh, I had never seen that aspect of a beef producer in my life. Like, I don't know why. And so it really shifted my heart to say, gosh, what are the creative ways that we can help to share more stories and more ways that, people are making a difference in their community. Had I not been open to hear his personal stories, I would have never had that thought and way that I can now bring an idea back to my client to then say, all right, here's an opportunity we have. So anyway.
It's the threads, right? You start, and it is amazing how threads start to weave together if you really start to listen to other people's stories. Because you go, oh my God, I just remember somebody told me this, or, someone told me this story, and it's so relevant to something else that shows up in your life. I think the universe delivers us some beautiful gifts, and just how to weave threads together from all the different people that come in our lives and the stories that we can hear if we only stop and listen and get aware. So often we can blow past it and not even hear it. So it's
well,
really,
I think that's the opportunity here, Cami, right? Is like with this slide, in thinking about what your action item might be, I think it could be really linked to giving yourself that opportunity to say, man, in the past week, what are some of the personal stories that maybe I've had the chance to hear, but I really haven't reflected on? Like, what was the beautiful piece from that story that I need to be taking forward with me? Because we just go, 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 go. We don't even let ourselves think about that. So who are some of those people that you've spoken to? What are some of those little golden pieces there that you want to maybe deeply reflect on?
I love that. I mean, it's even, for doing the interviews that I do on Extraordinary Women Radio, there's times where I'll go, oh yeah, what did we talk about on that one? And I'll have to go back and, really look for those deep nuggets, as you call them. And I think that's so wise to be able to do that with all of our conversations in our life. So awesome.
Right. Saying, gosh, I had this conversation. How does that apply to my life? I was just having a conversation with Rory from the Netherlands, and he's got this wealth of information. And so I was telling him, Rory, you really need to position yourself as a thought leader, and you've got to do these things. And then I'm thinking about that conversation. I'm like, all right, how am I thinking about this for my own life? How can I use that conversation I had with Rory and creatively inspire my action? So there you go. Number 4 is one of Cami and I's favorite, I bet you would guess, right? And this is just getting outside. Right? And so leveraging that power of getting out and tuning in, whether it's to the sounds or the wind or we've talked about, the power of nature in so many different jams, but again, how often when faced with that choice of, oh my gosh, I've got to have a creative idea, do we choose just to stay at our desks versus I'm going to go and ponder and take a walk and try to work out some of these ideas, or, just go out and I'm going to just go outside without even an intention to come up with a creative idea. Right? You're just going to go outside and be and feel and let those whatever's supposed to show up for you. Right? The pictures that you see here were from our little trail ride we took a couple of weeks ago, and it was so amazing. We had all these butterflies. You guys remember a few weeks ago when we had all those damn butterflies, and we walked into this really beautiful meadow, and the butterflies just started flying everywhere, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you can take just that experience of the butterflies flying everywhere and like, man, how does that link to the way that my head works, like, and all those beautiful ideas, and they just scatter, and like, I mean, you could just take whatever, like the way that the water was flowing, the way that the snow looked on the mountain peaks, or the way that the horses behaved. I mean, there's so many different things that you can dig into if you just give yourself the chance to be outside.
Yeah.
So, what would you add, Cami?
I have nothing to add to it. I just know that it makes, if I get outdoors and turn off all the noise of our day-to-day lives, that I come back refreshed, and it's a whole new day, and it's a whole new way of looking at things. So it's really important to me.
Right. And on this day, this was like a week before, or 3 days before I had the busiest week of my life. Right. I went like that Monday. I went to Yuma and did a 6-hour training for 100 people. Came back Tuesday, got ready, and then ran my summit Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for like 75 people outside of the country. Like, it was crazy. And so like all my people probably would have looked at my schedule and said that was the shittiest day for you ever to go and do that. But said the smart people, they would have said that was the best day in the whole wide world that you could have done that, because then you were able to go with a completely different frame of creativity.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always fit into a pretty schedule. You might not think that's the right thing to do, but shake it up from that perspective too.
Yeah. So number 5 is making space for creativity. And there's a couple things in this. At the beginning of this year, I was really clear that my office was not in a space that really was conducive to creativity. I knew it. I actually had someone do a feng shui on it. And so I put the bagwood map up on here, and you'll see that the doors are over here. So my door, if I'm looking right now, is actually in front of me. And this one over here is the creative space. And so if I would have to actually turn this map on its head to be right for my room. My whiteboard is going to be over here on my left hand side. So if this map was turned upside down, the map would be where my creative wall is. And it's where my whiteboard is. And I do get creative on my whiteboard. I've got colors going, I've got things, and it's just a good space for that. So consider, I love this whole bagwood thing on feng shui. And in fact, I might get my good pal Cindy to do this for everybody at some point, because I think it was really good for me to do this in my office and go through all the different corners. And it's completely changed the energy of my office. I can get creative in my office. I could not, like when I wrote my book, I did not write any of my book in my office because it was energetically not right, and I didn't know what was wrong in it. So I was always upstairs in my living room. I could totally write now in my office and just be in the space, because I've changed the dynamics of what this office feels like. It's pretty cool how significant it's shifted. And then know what kind of environments really inspire you, because we all get different types of things that inspire us, that get us excited, that bring our energy up, as Sarah was talking about earlier. Is what kind of environments really help you be creative. One of my podcasts that I did a few weeks ago, she said that she actually has an easel in a room right next to her office, always set up. I love this idea. So an easel that is just all art ready. The paints are there. She doesn't have to pull anything out, and she can just go start being creative on the easel. And I think that's a brilliant idea, because it's if you think about, okay, oh God, I have to do all of these steps to go get ready, versus it's just there for you to go play with and kind of doodle or grab, and you'll hit on doodling, but it's just making the space that's there. And then the other thing is to mark it on your calendar. I know when I wrote my book, I marked my Fridays off for many, many months and did nothing else but that. It was dedicated to that day. So it was such a beautiful thing to wake up in the morning and go, oh my gosh, I have everything I need to right here. All I have to do today is just write, be creative. Anything you want to add to this, Sarah?
It just made me think of my closet, right? And that being ready And, you know, like when you can go through and have your closet organized in a way that you can just walk in and everything is at your disposal. You can see all of your jewelry, you can see the colors, you can see your shoes. I mean, it just sets you up for success in dressing in a way that you want to dress. And so how can we take that idea of the closet and having everything ready to go and apply that to the way that we work? Right. So I get jacked about fun little organizers and that are in the right colors or that has a, you know, horse on it or something, because it's fun and I can set it up so that when I'm ready to be creative, my stuff's ready to rock. So I just love that whole idea.
So I'm loving, Casey just put on a comment on here. She says, "Oh no, the cat litter's in the marriage and relationship part of the map." So good thing to move, right? Totally great thing to move. There was one thing that I had done when I was keeping all my finances on the floor in my finances corner, and it was not treating it with respect. It was, I keep like this box that has this like the, what do you call it, the accordion boxes, right, that for each month of the year, and it was just not in the right place. I had to move it to a different place in my office. So it's little things like that. If you can kind of get clear about what is going on for each corner of any given room, you can shift things around. So I'd move that cat litter.
I think you should put that. You should put that that graphic in the Syzygy Circle as a standalone post. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, totally. And Heather does it in the kitchen. So awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So Sarah, you've been creating lately.
I have been creating, and I've just been feeling like that urge, right? We were talking about you got to listen to your body, and the other day I got home and I'd been traveling, and I'm like, all I want to do is just put up my black spash in my kitchen. That's all I want to do. Like my task list is 50 miles long. And then I started thinking, I was like, well, why can't I do it? What's the rule?
You said it to me that morning. You're like, I'm thinking I'm doing this. And I'm like, well, do it.
Yeah. And then I started to give myself permission to believe, again, that mindset piece that, well, while I'm going to be working with my hands and doing this, I'm going to be processing the last couple of crazy ass weeks that I've had. And this is going to be so good for my thinking time. And I'll tell you what, oh my gosh, it was so cool. So as I'm putting on my black splash, it only took like 3 or 4 hours. That wasn't a huge deal. I had some good clarity. So you can play and, do good thinking at the same time. Right? It's all the same.
Yeah.
So do the thing. Whatever your art is, whatever you're feeling like you need to do, but they're like, oh, I can't. You're going to do good work.
So literally when I was writing my goals last year, I wrote I wanted to make more sandcastles. So there's my beautiful sandcastle. He was a Santa snowman is what he was. And
I like it.
Yeah, and then the clay is just that call. It's, getting your hands dirty in whatever it is that you like to get your hands dirty in. I think that's a really good thing. And for me, I love to get my hands into the clay. And I don't do it enough. I can tell you that's going to be on my list of things in 2018 I want to be doing more of. So it is that kind of whatever your art is, go play in it. Whether it's photography, whether it, whatever that looks like, have a lot of fun with it.
Music, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Music. Sing. Sing, Sarah. And then open up to spirit with curiosity and a sense of joy. And this is, the moon. We've had all kinds of mystical things we could play in with the moon this year. This is actually my husband and I walking through a labyrinth. I love doing that sort of thing. It just does open up space for creativity. So whatever it is from a spirit perspective. What about you, Sarah? That jumps out for you for a spirit perspective?
I've just been following whatever feels good and just like being curious and like just, again, open to the fact that there's so much magic and that it's coming from something bigger than myself and that things are shifting and just being like, yeah, and I'm being called to be a part of that. How cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we have just a couple of additional thoughts for you to consider as you think about cultivating creativity. And this next one, I know we can all do immediately and do better at. And it's this whole idea of capturing what's hot, right? We have that thought in the shower. We have that thought while we're driving down the road or wherever it is. Are we allowing ourselves to actually write it down instead of just to let it mull around in our mind? And there's really magical things that happen. Again, we've talked about this in prior jams, like when your mind sees your ideas in your own handwriting, right? Or in your own space where you can, play around with it. And so it's not just enough to collect ideas. You have to be able to pull them together and implement them in some way, shape, or form. And so allow yourself the space to sit down every week or every month and go through all of those ideas that you've written down in your beautiful hand, or you've put in your note, in Evernote, or you've used the app, because there's all sorts of cool things like Keep as an app, where you can put ideas, but you've got to go back to them. Right? I have lots of cool ideas in my journal, but how often do you schedule that time to go back and say, let me go back and see what are some of those themes? And it's amazing when you give yourself that time, what ideas are there. And so read it as you're thinking about those different workshops that you want to deliver. I challenge you to go back and look at all of your client notes over the past year and just say, what are those words that popped to you? And maybe those words are going to be that creative spark for that next piece that you're going to be delivering. Just give yourself that chance, right? So allow yourself to sift through them, toss out the ones that you haven't got time for or they're not exciting to you anymore, and concentrate on the ones that do.
Yeah.
So write it down, do something with it.
And I actually go back in my journal a lot that way, where I've got ideas flowing and happening, and then I need content for something. I can go back to my journal, and it's amazing how much richness is there because you're in that space of flow and creativity. And versus if I just sat down at my computer and started to try to type, you're working from a different dimension, if you will, when you're in that writing zone, that journaling zone.
Right. And old books, like I picked up an old book the other day and I started to flip through it and I was like, man, I did some good highlighting here. Like, what have I been doing with all this good content? Nothing. Oh, okay, well, I probably should.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do there?
Yeah. So this is really cool. This was observation was one that we came up with, that one of the ideas that we came up with. But this is actually from a Facebook post by an evergreen neighbor last week, this picture. And she wrote with it, I'll just read what she wrote. Screech. I have been looking for screech owls for the past couple of months for some reason, checking every nook and cranny of the trees. On Thursday, I saw my first one ever. And I had paused at a favorite spot to soak in the sunlight and listen to the water run over the rocks when my eyes suddenly saw it. So she just stopped, right? She just was like, sitting down, gonna pause. And she's sitting there in the peaceful quietness, and all of a sudden it just like pops at her, right? And so her point is that sometimes you've got to stand still to see what's right in front of you. And so as I think many of you know, I'm always looking for the owl on the hillside above my house, and I have yet to see it other than flying by very momentarily. So I've actually walked up in the woods, and now I'm like, okay, I just need to go up there and just sit and just be, because my creativity it's just gonna create space for it. So that observation is so powerful. And look what the beautiful creativity that she created. One, from just the photos, that she's clearly a great photographer. And then two, the wisdom that she shared. Sometimes you gotta stand still to see what's right in front of you. And so great wisdom, great creativity flowed from her just by slowing down and pausing that day in the forest for her. Loved it.
Love it. So cool. Oh, yes. And this next one, I think you're probably not going to be surprised at, because you've heard it your whole life, and this the whole idea of like, let yourself doodle. Right? If you want to have some creativity, you're stuck, you've got to write something, you've got to come up with that great big idea, just let your pen start moving on your page and just draw. Right? And so doodling is not always just a sign of wandering or an idle mind. Instead, it really can, like studies tell us, that it improves our cognitive performance. Right? And so when you're stuck, let your mind wander, draw whatever you like. I always still like to draw horses, hearts, whatever it is, and see what new ideas might pop for you when you're drawing that next beautiful horse, and just have fun with it. because it's good. And the next one flows right in with that, because it has to do with like creativity and drawing and not being so linear and saying, oh my God, I need to have this perfect thing right now. It says, all right, let me just dump all of the ideas out. And I don't know about you, like when I sit down and I've got a creative task, like I need to write a blog, or I need to write some content, or I need to just do something to wow a client, like I don't know where to begin. And so I like to just start with the mind dump of what are all the issues? What are the ways that I want to begin? What are the ways that I want to end? Who are the people that I want to be working with? What are the big pieces of like decision making do I need to think about? And so just like dump it all, organize it with colors and say, oh, there's some cool things that might need to go together. And so I'll take a different color and group those ideas. And, you know, we've talked ad nauseum about mind mapping, but it had to come back in here again because it can start the thinking, right? It's right brain, left brain, all of that together. So don't underestimate the power of a mind map. If you haven't tried it, don't knock it.
I love it.
Yes, yes. And, you know, we only just have, I think, maybe one or two things left to share in this. These things, again, aren't rocket science. You're not like, oh my God, I've never heard these. But it's that choice factor again of what am I going to do to recognize that creativity doesn't, you know, I have it, but it doesn't just come because I just want it to, right? I've got to do that work. I've got to do that cultivation. And number 12 is the most like beautiful, simple way to do it. And it's free through your library or through your friend that gives you a book or whatever. And so just read more. Are you going to have new creative ideas? Be like, oh my God, that story that Brene was talking about with having a soft heart or a soft front, like there's all these so cool things. So I'm right now listening to Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. Love her. The Alchemist is a book that I read this year that totally has me thinking creatively in terms of personal legends. And so there's language that you glean from the book that might trigger you to think a new way. You know, there's all sorts of things. So I don't have anything else to say other than read more. Cami, I know you had Big Magic and this Inner Engineering. What would you say about those?
So Big Magic is a great book, and I like her thinking around how do you really engage your creativity. And one of the things that she talks about is that often the universe is coming in and dropping an idea in on us. So think about, have you been having an idea recently? Is there something that's been dropping in and it keeps showing up for you? And her theory in Big Magic is that we can either take a hold of this gift that's been given to us, this idea, this creative thought, and go do something with it. Or we can just say, oh yeah, that, and then you go off and you get busy and you forget to do it. And what she talks about there is the universe, if you don't pick it up, the universe is going to go give that idea to somebody else, to that seed to plant to somebody else. So often when you see this idea, it's like, oh my God, that was my best idea and somebody else got it. It's because you didn't act on it. So I love that thought. Is if you've got an idea bubbling for you, go act on it. So it's a really great one to really spark your creativity. That's a great book for it. The fourth one on here, the Inner Engineering. The reason I put that one on here was because I've actually started making time every morning where I am making space to not only journal, but space to read. And this is new. And it's been a really nice treat because it gives me this space, and I don't have to read very long. I might only read a single page of something, and I've got like, you know, I always have like 10 books going at the same time. So I have plenty to choose from, and I just trust whatever is supposed to come up for me that day that I pick up the right book. And it's so amazing how often you pick up a book, you know, just like inspiration cards, right? It's like you open it up and it's exactly the one you're supposed to hear today. It's the same thing with the books, but it plants those seeds for ideas and thoughts and just being open and hearing. So this was one that I've been doing a lot of that with this year, and it's been really useful. So loved it.
Yeah. And this slide is really, you know, just about more, right? Whatever you're doing in terms of cultivating of ideas, just keep doing it, right? The more ideas that you can generate, the likelihood of you coming up with a great idea is, right? And so if you have 100 ideas and 99 of them are terrible, there was probably that one like, oh my God, oh, eureka moment where like, that one was a good idea. Maybe it was my 100th idea, but that was the winner. And so a lot of people fall for that eureka myth, right? They think that the big idea just comes from nowhere and that the true geniuses just have that, singular exceptional thought. Kind of goes back to that, it's finite, right? But actually the geniuses throughout history are those that are smart, but they're really hardworking, right? They're just out there throwing things up all the time, the time, never stopping ever. So the next slide is like, if you're somebody that is a blogger or looking to generate content for your audience, one of the things that I would challenge you to do is to make a list of 50 topics that you could blog about. So like today, when this call is over, you challenge yourself. I'm going to come up with a list of 50 things, and you don't get up until you've got all of those 50 things flowed out. And then you allow yourself to take a space, and then you come back, and then you ruthlessly edit. Yeah. Right, but you've got 50 ideas that are right there that then might spark, a 51st that is the most amazing or something. So anyway, just start, right? What are 50 things? You could come up with something.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's your turn, guys. You guys get to, what has worked for you when you think about creativity? Just raise your hand up, and we can talk to a couple of you. What are some of your best creativity ways that you engage it, that you excite it, that you raise the energy of your creativity?
What's your go-to?
We have a few more people that have jumped on. Marion, I see it. Rita's okay. Go ahead, Rita.
Well, you probably know what my my main go-to is. It's always silence. It always starts with that, and it's what I've started actually doing more of this year, especially this last quarter, is, obviously I meditate every morning, and in meditation I don't use that as my, my space to like explore, well, what am I going to create today? Like I really just sit and do mindfulness meditation, which is you just allow whatever to come up and just go with it, right? And after that, what I've started to do is actually write after I meditate, which has been really something. I just let whatever has to come out just flowing out onto paper, which I think has been really fun to do. So that's one of probably my main go-to on a regular basis. And then the other thing is something that you both were sharing. I mean, obviously all of these in your list are just fantastic. And it's kind of reminded me to go back to some of these things. And one of the things it reminded me of is when I step out even with the dogs in the morning, like it's simple things. Like I'm out in the morning, I'm not looking to be creative, but when I'm outside, I stop, because it's early in the morning. It's like, 5:30 to 6 o'clock, and the sun might be just coming up, and just like noticing what is happening, like the stillness, or maybe there's birds or whatever. So it's just kind of taking moments even that can really are inspiring, and then you kind of go with that with your day. Yeah. I don't do this as much, but I want to come back to the mind map. I've used mind maps, and I think they're beautiful. And as you kind of brought that up, I'm like, man, that's what I'm going to do. Even with even with these events that I talked about, I'm like, ooh, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a fun with, mind maps. But anyway, those are a couple of things that for me are pretty regular things. And I'm sure there's many others, but
awesome
for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Deanna, go ahead.
For me, it's absolutely nature, and having had the good fortune of being able to be alone in the mountains for most of the last 6 months, I've just been on fire. I mean, honestly, when you asked about the creativity number today, I feel like I'm a 10, and
I love that.
I do. I totally feel like a 10. And the empowering belief that I have is that no one has had this idea in the exact same way that I've had it. And so being in nature has just completely opened me up. Now, unfortunately, I'm back home now, and I won't probably be in the mountains for another 4 or 5 months. but I'm trying to find a way to bring that back with me home. And obviously I'm going to be outside more. But to Rita's point, meditation has been doing it for me too. I've been home now for a week, and I've been really doing a lot more meditation than I ever have before. And I'm finding that the ideas are coming to me during my meditation as much as they were when I was out sitting underneath stars. It's just I feel on fire.
That's awesome. That's so exciting. It's really, really exciting to have that energy flowing for you like that.
Well,
So
to maintain that, that's so
yeah.
cool to know that, like, I was here and now I'm here, and how do I still fire on the like super high level? That's brilliant. Like, and I love that you're finding that connection with meditation to get you that same flow. That's cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. So these are, I wanted to just put this up there because this was actually, when I looked at it, I was like, this is really cool stuff that we've delivered over jam sessions over the last 3 years. And they're available to you guys. You can go out onto my Syzygy and see any of these. Right now, the 2017 aren't out there, and I probably won't put those ones out there until my new website launches, but they will be on the new client site when my website launches. But there's all kinds of rich stuff out there for you. So take advantage of that. And it's been just so much fun. First of all, I want to say thank you, Sarah, for being my partner in these for the last 3 years. We've had fun. And I can promise you, if you go back and you watch the very first couple of them, you'll see that they kind of transitioned over the years. We got better at it. So that's always a good lesson.
That's right.
The 2017, I think probably the quality of those they're all good. They're all really good content, but I think the 2017 ones really, they rocked this year. They were a lot of fun. And so I'm going to miss doing these with Sarah next year. The 2018 ones are going to transform into a circle of collaboration. And that really came about where I was thinking, there's so much power and wisdom between all of you. I really want to open up the door, the space for all of you to be able to lean into each other, ask for help, ask for support. And yes, there will be a beautiful structure set up for this. I know Marian said, make sure you put a good structure to this. And I definitely will put a good structure to it. So I appreciate that. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of empowering conversations that can come and support that can come from the strength of our amazing group of people who are part of this circle. So with that, we want to wish you all a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving. Eat lots of good, yummy food, whatever that looks like, and enjoy family and friends and all that you are doing. And my gratitude to each and every one of you for being part of my life and being part of this amazing circle of community that we have together. And a lot of gratitude to you, Sarah, for all the partnership fun that we've had together. And anything else you want to add?
Oh, just the same. It's super fun, and to see that progression, and like to have all of those titles on the screen. I was like, holy moly, there's been a lot of ground that we've covered, a lot of learning, a lot of just awesome women coming together to help each other just be better. And so just know that we're always here to be of service to help each other, and let's show up and make requests and make offers and live our best lives, baby.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you both. Happy Thanksgiving.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.